Hey guys, what's going on? In this video, we're going to tell you exactly how things may actually unveil for Nvidia after 4 p.m. today, after the earnings report actually comes out. So, got some really cool information here. If you're trading options specifically, we will lay out the best possible entry point on Nvidia, guys. So, before we dive into that, I'm going to show you a few charts, and clearly, this is a stock that beats earnings all the time, guys. We pull up Nvidia history of earnings reports. It beats every freaking time. As a matter of fact, it's not on this page when the last time it missed. So the bottom line is, it's not the fact that we don't think Nvidia can't have a stellar earnings report as always. But as a trader, you have to clearly understand it's not the earnings report that makes you money. It is the reaction to the information in the earnings report. So oftentimes, earnings report can be great and the stock can sell off. Oftentimes, earnings report can be bad and they're buying the dip and driving the stuff higher after hours. So what's unique about Nvidia is it has a very repetitive behavior, not at the time of the earnings report, but rather on the sequence of the next 72 hours, and that's where you can really capitalize. So opposed to buying a bunch of calls or puts or doing both, which is the worst possible thing you can do as a trader, is basically buying calls and puts at the same time. Why? Because you don't fucking know which way it's gonna go. So oftentimes when the stock stalls and it doesn't go anywhere, you will lose your ass. So to avoid silly mistakes like this, if you're interested in growing your trading account, the best thing to do, of course, is to wait for the reaction and then enter depending on the pattern that's being developed. Now, in this case, it would be justified based on the pattern that we're seeing right now to actually front run some of it, but be ready for the behavioral pattern I'm about to show you. Now, first, let's point out that there is some selling, that is insider selling, ahead of this earnings report, and it's noteworthy because last time we had an increase in the insider selling. The stock did sell off after the earnings announcement. Now I'm going to bring up the chart for the last 4 earning quarters right here, and basically the stock beat on earnings last year and in November, but it did trade down after the earnings report. So this is one instance where the stock clearly beats on earnings and it actually sells off. Here's a second instance of the same sort of behavior where it beats on earnings and then the stock drops like crazy. The third instance right here, guides higher and the stock does move higher after the earnings beat, and the same sort of reaction to the earnings report here. The stock actually initially drops, represented by a couple of small red candles right here, but overall it skyrockets shortly after. Now, based on this pattern right here, guys, we're clearly just recently set a top. If you were a part of the alert group here at 13 Market Moves, you would have known we were shorting Nvidia right at $322 the day it actually made that candle, which to us was a sign of a loss of momentum, which we are likely to see continuing in the next few days here. So, daily chart on Nvidia, guys, were to break it down a little bit further. We do have a confirmation on a potential def cross. Now it's shown a def hook, which is a definite sign that the stock is not just about to make a small move, but it can actually stage a rather substantial move to the downside here. So this top information right here showing us that there are a lot more sellers at these levels above 300. So in the event, as we see some reactions where we want to actually bet in the opposite of the initial reaction, we can easily see the shares make a quick spike higher, retouch that level, and then sell off. And if we were to track back to this part of the chart, guys, you see last time the RSI skyrocketed. It sold off rather sharply, literally from about the same level as now. It dropped all the way to 40, which is basically a drop in RSI of more than 50%. And based on the characteristics of the chart right here, based on the volume characteristics, and based off MACD, like this is exactly where we could be heading, a scenario like this. So what we've got here is a reaction day by day after the actual earnings report. So on November 9th, 2017, the stock gaps down after hours, and then in the next day it actually gaps up higher and trends lower. So basically we had a sell-off. If we were to characterize this pattern right here, it would be like a V formation. So after hours, the initial reaction was lower, and then we move higher, right? And so if you catch that top part right here, the next day is where you have a chance to short it. Very easy trade. Now, here's another quarter of November 2018 where after earnings announcement, after hours, it actually shoots higher, and then it sells off. So we're likely to have this sort of scenario. We're likely to have this sort of event based off the charts and everything we're looking at here at 13 market moves. So we have quick, sharp move, spike higher right after hours, followed by a bigger drop. And so the levels we could be reaching maybe a bounce to like 310, 320 level, followed by a subsequent sell-off. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, I mean, this stock could be substantially lower after the initial bounce higher. And here's where things get a bit tricky, but if you know the behavioral pattern of the stock, this is how you can definitely put on a winning trade. November 2019 quarter, after hours the stock moves lower, okay, and then it bounces higher in the morning, then sells off, and then bounces out for good this time. And this is the type of behavior that you should be paying very, very close attention to. Very rarely, when Nvidia drops on the day after the earnings announcement, does it not bounce the following day. So if you're a bull, best way to catch a potential bullish move in the stock would be to wait till tomorrow's sell-off and actually get in on the dip, because it's likely to move higher the following day. So this is the most common behavior right here in Nvidia. Now, understanding this information clearly could also help you position ahead of the earnings report. You can literally short it ahead of the earnings report, collect the money on it tomorrow, still buy some puts, and just make sure when it hits a decent level like 275, you can just get out and play on the call side. So here's a confirmation of such behavior, again, where the stock basically bounces higher after hours, and then it sells off for multiple days in a row. So looking at all these things, guys, it's a pretty easy trade. The likeliest outcome is going to bounce out after hours, and then it's going to drop. So this has the highest probability outcome. We would assign about 80% outcome to this sort of formation. And if indeed it gaps down right away, even if it doesn't even try to bounce, right? So if it goes from current level and it gaps and it opens straight down, okay, you don't want to be just buying calls right away, because it can bounce and can drop again. Where you want to position yourself is to buy calls on Nvidia at the end of the day tomorrow on November the 18th. So if it gaps down, it's going to bounce, sell off some more. It's going to fight all day. Wherever it's going to close towards the end of the day tomorrow, November 18th, that could give you an ideal entry point, because in the morning on Friday, the 19th, right, it could actually start. It's going to gap up from here. You can add to the position here, and it's going to move higher. So this is also a highly playable pattern. If you go into puts into the earnings, reverse them into calls at the end of the day tomorrow, and therefore you can catch a round-trip trade on Nvidia. If you have any questions about this, guys, if you don't know which strikes to pick, which expirations, and so on, make sure you go to 13marketmoves.com, sign up to talk to a senior trader right here, and let's rock. This is an easy trade, guys, if you understand the behavioral patterns. But if you have any questions remaining about this trade, make sure you sign up and schedule a call right now. I'll catch you guys in the next video soon. Let's roll.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, well I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, oh Lord, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, well I've been waiting for this moment for all my life. Oh Lord, I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord.
Let's trade!